condition of working and the process for the defining a structural, which is the slightly advantage and its role and its regulatory for their efficiency, which is the dynamic institutionalization, different challenges and its cooperative advantage and supplementary for the different working and it's basically for their supply chain disruptions, the condition of Middle East and it's ecologically which is happening in different role for their different good and services, which is also affecting and it's a different balance of the working capacity, it is disruption, the working for their supply chain and it's a disruption which is happening in different supply and it's a condition for their capacity requirement, which is the different working and it's a inducement of the challenges and its capacity for their different harnessing the structure, it is processing of the different working and its facilitates for their defining a structural, which is the role and its regulatory for their supplementary ideologically, and the transformation of working and its supplementary for their different distributions of the transformation, which is the defining a structural and its a processing for their structural and its distributions for their supply chain and its condition for their different working and it's basically for their supply and it's working for their basically for their immersing and transformation, how to different working and its condition for their role in its regulatory, which is the influential structural, the process and its distributions for their transformation and it's working for their condition and it's basically for their different immersing and its condition for their rollout, and the efficiency for their distinguish and its condition for their different challenges, how to different functional association and its challenges for their capacity and its requirement for their functional association, which is the neutral efficiency, growth and its orientation of the socialization and its influential part of the approach, how to different growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency and challenges for their capacity requirement, thinking about different approach and its influential part of the approach and different growing and its influential structural, it is the distributes of the transformation and its challenges for the defining structurals and the helping of Israel and US and invasion of the Iran, and also Iran is also counter invasion of Iran Israel, and this counter attack which is happening in happening for 1 month and we are just middle class peoples which facing of this type of unethical challenges which is affect our pockets, which are affects our household and also affects our business and many things, which is also disruption, but what we saying about this, these are these 4 and 5 people's political leaders in the world which is disrupt total markets, a stock market is also grounded the levels and we are just क्या कहें, कुछ दिमाग में नहीं आ रहा है कोरोना के बाद से यूक्रेन रसिया, उसके बाद से ये सब आप तो समझ रहे हो ना क्या हो रहा है यार दुनिया में, स्टॉक मार्केट तो आपको पता ही है क्या हाल चाल है, बट एटलीस्ट एक होप है जो हम लोग कर सकते हैं, वो क्या है, तो सीधा सीधा अपना काम करो we are just disrupting a different field and it's associated in different challenges, which is capacity and its requirement, the phase and its orientation for their neutralization and its growing for their influential structural and its beginning of the socialization and its growth and its balance for their capacity requirement, thinking about the association and its cooperative for their supplementary for their ideological, which is happening in different supply chain and its disruption of working and its field about different working and its condition for their disruption and challenges for their capacity requirement, it is the challenges and its capacity requirement for their different thinking about the structural, the growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency and its balance for their capacity and its requirement for their phase and its orientation for their socialization, how to navigation and supply chain for their disruption and its capacity for their different growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, the challenges and its capacity for their requirement and its influential part of the approach, it is the regulation and its challenges for their capacity and its influential structure, which is a different way and its balance for their capacity requirement, it is the growth and its orientation for their different cooperative and its supply chain for their disruption, which is the prospectus for their ideologically, and it's supplementary for their cooperative advantage challenges and its criticisms which is happening, and it is the balances for their capacity and its requirement for their phase. The balances and capacity defining a structural different institutional structural, and it's working for the prosperity which is helping throughout the India, and also the proper way of the wave for the trade efficiency and its growth for the orientational, and its neutralizations which is happening, and its balance for their capacity requirement which is the slightly advantage, and its role for their defining a structure. The process for their capacity and its requirement for their orientational neutral efficiency which is gesture and the socialization which is the effective for their different coordinations advantage economically approach, and the growing for their influential structural the role and its regulatory for their transformation of the growing and its influential part of the approach. It is the growth and its orientation for their different growth and its balance for their defining a structural. It is the efficiency and its distinguished for their transformation and its neutral efficiency. The challenges for their effective and its neutralization for their processing and its structural for their different condition of the work field association finding for their different fragmentation and its enlightenment procedure supplementary for their systematic advantage which is happening, but the process of work it could be possibility and the advantage of work defining structure process for their distinguished transformation, but the neutralization and its growing for their influential structural which have the processing and the systematic of the cooperative advantage supplementary of the challenges and its capacity for their neutral efficiency growing and its balance for their capacity and its neutralization resistivity and its procedure for their sustainability and its approach efficiency. The coordination and its defining it will be possible which is the deficiency in transformation, but it might be not be possible when the different political leaders are not associated each other, not cooperative with each other. So the arms conflicts which is happening, destruction of humanity and loss of the human lives, loss of their goods and services, and disruption which is happening, and many of innocent people which is facing of this type of challenges like the geopoliticals which is going throughout the world. One and another country which is invasion each other, neighboring countries not happening for each other, so they are fighting for each other like the छोटे बच्चे जैसे गांव में झगड़ा नहीं करते एक दूसरे से बड़े से, वही साला हो रहा है पूरे दुनिया भर में। पता ही नहीं चल रहा है कि वो सब लड़ाई कर रहा है, हम लोग के पेज जेब ढीला हो जा रहा है। समझ रहे हो ना कि हम वो सब पूरा लड़ रहा है यार, पता ही नहीं चल रहा है कि वो सब के मन में क्या है भाई, तू क्यों लड़ रहा है, तो लड़ने से क्या फ़ायदा है। कोई टेंशन नहीं है कि दुनिया में कोई क्या इफेक्ट पड़ेगा। साला शांति से रहो सब, हम लोग को भी शांति से जीने दो सब। साला ये तो हम लोग मिडिल क्लास का आदमी मोदी जी का दिया हुआ अनाज लेकर खा रहे हैं, उसमें से इतना सारा चैलेंजेस फेस करने के बाद फेस कर रहे हैं यार कि समझ रहे हो ना कि वी हैव जस्ट transform the different structural and its processing for the structural for their growth and its orientation, but the neutralization for their influential and its part of the approach and its supplementary for their ideologically. The different distinctness of the transformation, its growth and its orientation for their distinctness and its neutral efficiency which is challenges, and the happening of the supplementary for their growing and its influential part of the approach. It is the growing and its influential part of the approach which is happening for their different distribution and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, the challenges for their capacity and its requirement. कैमरा से साफ नहीं लग रहा है, धुंधला हो गया है। The capacity and its requirement which is the different happening and defining a structure. The process and its distinguish for their challenges which is happening and its procedure and its working for their capacity requirement, neutralization for their processing and its institutional structure, the growing and its influential association of different technology cooperatives and the supply chain disruptions and the different advantages of the alliance structural and its processing for their neutral efficiency, growing for their neutralization and its effective for their different distribution transformation for their ideology. It is the working for their different role and its regulatory for their transformation, growth and its orientation for their socialization and its influential part of the approach and its effective for their transformation for transformations for their neutral efficiency and challenges for their different distributions and its working capacity for their neutralization, how to different phase and its orientation for their supplementary and its ideologically for their defining a structural, the growth in its orientation for their neutral efficiency, challenges for their distinguish for their transformation for their orientation and socialization, which is influential part of the approach, and different challenges for their capacity requirement, the processing for their structural and its working for their supply chain and its disruption for their defining a structural processing for their neutral efficiency. It is balance for their capacity and its neutralization for their processing and its institutional balance for their different advantage and its supply supplementary for their ideologically, which is happening in different structural and its processing for their gracefully responsibility. It is the growth and its orientation for their social and its evolutionary for their challenges, which is which is the different capacity and its requirement which is happening, but the supply chain and its disruption, the growth and its a condition for their different working and its a phase for their orientation, which is the neutral efficiency and challenges for their capacity requirement and its balance for their different neutralization, how to different cooperative and its systematic for their supply chain and its a in interruption of the working and its a phase orientation for their neutralization and its a growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency, the balances of the capacity and its neutralization for their influential structural and its growth and its orientation for their neutral efficiency and its challenges for their capacity requirement, which is the growing and its influential part of the approach, the supply chain and its disruption of working and its phase for their orientation for their neutralization and its growth and its orientation. It is the different distinguishing and transformation for their gracefully responsibility, the hidden of the ecologically prosperity and its institutionalization processing, and the structural balance for their capacity and its requirement for their different fields and its structure, the structural for their different cooperative and its systematic for their transformation, political and geopolitical, happening in the different structural and its processing for their gracefully responsibility and its ideologically associated, the structural for their distinguish and its influential part of the approach, and how to distinguish for their different challenges, capacity of the requirement and its phase orientation of the neutral efficiency.